5:30. Let's call this meeting of the Blowing Rock Board of Adjustment to order. The members of the board that are serving tonight, starting with this fellow right here, are Brandon Walker, Ms. Sarah Murphy, I'm E.B. Springs, Stephen Schiller, and Mr. Jerry Starnes. And we have the pleasure of our ETJ member, Mr. Woody Hubbard, sitting in to spectate. This case is in town and not in the ETJ, but we're happy to have him here. We have got one variance application hearing to take care of, but before we get to that, let's take a look at the minutes of our last meeting, September 4th, 2025 meeting, and let's see if we have any errors or omissions in that. Any board members see any problems with the minutes from that September 4th, 2025 meeting? I saw one word missing. On the second page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines up, the current building structure at the front west corner is located 4.1 feet from the property line was left out, from the property line. I would make that change. I saw nothing else, and looks like no other board member saw any problems, so I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the September 4, 2025 meeting of the Blowing Rock Board of Adjustment with that one fix. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adopting those minutes say aye.
Aye.
And they are adopted. One quick bit of business. I put at every board member's spot in our town attorney, Mr. Petrick's spot, a piece of paper that has some Blowing Rock ordinances on it and a piece of paper that has some North Carolina general statutes on it. If you'll look first at the Blowing Rock paper, down at the bottom I've underlined 16-5.2.1, paragraph F. It says the variance will neither result in the extension of a non-conforming situation in violation of Article 8, nor authorize the initiation of a non-conforming use of land. So that is saying, this Blowing Rock ordinance is saying we can grant variances, but we can't grant a variance that results in the extension, the enlargement of a non-conforming situation that was already there, a grandfathered situation. However, if you'll turn to the North Carolina General Statute page, this is North Carolina General Statute 160D-705. I've underlined subparagraph D, variances. It says when unnecessary hardships would result from carrying out the strict letter of the zoning regulation, the Board of Adjustment shall vary any of the provisions of the zoning regulation upon a showing of all the following. What this is saying is that if you meet the 4 factors, it doesn't matter that you're going to enlarge a pre-existing non-conforming situation. We can vary anything. State law, which the general statute is, trumps local law. If we had a federal law that pertained to this, it would trump the state and the municipal. So as most of these variances that we do are an extension of a pre-existing non-conforming situation. And I didn't want you board members to think we weren't doing something kosher, because the state law actually demands that if they've met all 4 factors, they shall get their variance, even though we have to walk over a local ordinance to get there. Any questions from anyone? All right, let's see. The variance application we have tonight is variance number 2025-02. The applicant is Amanda Waters, who is with 444 Ms. Waters, raise your hand so we know who you are. 444 is a general contractor, is it not?
We are a general.
Um,
We are a general contractor.
Yes, thank you. And you're here on behalf of Robert and Abby Leslie. Are they here in the room? And here they are. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Leslie.
Good evening.
Mr. and Miss Leslie, do you want to do most of the handling of this here, or do you want Ms. Waters to do it?
We're going to defer to Ms. Waters on this. We discussed really all of it with her, so we
Okay.
feel really confident.
Okay.
So
Well,
Preston Spencer is here as one of our vice presidents of 444, and he is going to be doing the presentation on our back.
all right, let me get his name down. Preston, what was your last name?
Spencer.
Preston Spencer. Okay. In a minute, Miss Leslie, we're going to swear in all the people that are going to have something to say under oath, testify. I guarantee at some point you're going to want to say something to us, or we're going to want you to say something to us. We're going to try to gather as much information as we can. So when it comes time to swear everybody in, would you mind coming up and getting sworn in
Sure.
as well? Very good. The minutes of this meeting are going to be handled by Mr. Kevin Rothrock, who sits over here. He is a town employee. He is the planning director. He's a party. You're going to find this hearing is very pleasant, but it's actually set up that if it got contentious, it could get contentious. If the town didn't want you to have this thing, they have every right to give reasons why you shouldn't get your variance. The usual minute taker is Ms. Taylor Miller. She couldn't be here tonight. Somebody's got to do it. Mr. Rothrock has stepped up to the plate. Do you mind, Mr. Kevin Rothrock, who is a town employee and he's the planning director, do you mind him keeping the minutes?
Sir?
I'm the last choice. I'll do a good job.
Mr. Johnson, I know you're going to present the staff report. Do you mind, Mr. Kevin Rothrock, keeping the minutes?
I do not.
Okay, good. This hearing is a quasi-judicial hearing. It's conducted according to the rules and laws pertaining to quasi-judicial hearings. It will have all of the essential elements of a fair trial. Parties will have the opportunity to give evidence, cross-examine witnesses, inspect documents, and testimony shall be under oath. The board's findings will be based upon substantial, material, and competent evidence. We actually use the same rules of evidence that are used in criminal courts and civil courts of North Carolina. The members of the board that are participating are entitled to go by the property in question. For this case, it looks like it's 172 Clark Street, and just drive by, take a look at it, eyeball it. They're not supposed to stop and talk to anybody, but it's okay to look at the lay of the land, so to speak. I know I did it. I drove by, and I'm going to ask the members of the board if they drove by and looked at the property. Mr. Walker?
Yes, drove by. I would also like to say, I've never met Ms. Waters or the owners, but I am the former owner, just so that everybody's aware of that.
Okay. Ms. Murphy, did you go by?
I did.
I went by and looked at it. Mr. Sherrill, Mrs. Starnes. Okay, everybody's gone by and looked at it. The members of the board must disclose any prior conversations they had about this variance application and this property outside of this meeting. It's called ex parte communication. We can't discuss this case with anybody prior to this meeting. There are times when somebody walks up to us on the street and says, "Hey, I hear you're doing a hearing on such and such," and we're supposed to say, "Can't talk about it." In that case, we just needed to divulge that person came up and tried to talk to us. But Has anybody had any ex parte outside this hearing tonight, conversations about this case? Every board member says no, including me. A member of the board must not have a fixed opinion prior to this hearing as to whether this particular ordinance should or should not be granted, should not be biased. Does anybody have any bias against this case? I'm hearing nothing from all board members, including myself. A member must not have a fixed opinion as to whether all variances in general should or should not be granted. Does anybody have that opinion that variances should never be granted? And all members say no, that they don't have that opinion, including myself. A member must not participate in this case if the member has any close familial, business, or other close relationship with the person involved in this case. Is anybody involved with any person or with the property of this case? I say no, and all the board members are shaking their head no, they have no connection to this case in a business or other way, including a financial interest. One of the things that must be shown in order to get a variance is that unnecessary hardship exists. That's one of the 4 factors that have to be shown to get a variance. Factors 2, 3, and 4 are pretty self-explanatory. But the first one, the unnecessary hardship, that's a bit of a puzzler. And let's go ahead and state what unnecessary hardship is. Ms. Waters is going to have to prove there is unnecessary hardship if this variance is going to be granted. Unnecessary hardship is not defined in the state statute nor in the Blowing Rock Town Ordinance, but they require, the state statute and the Blowing Rock Ordinance, they require the applicant to show he or she is suffering unnecessary hardship. The North Carolina Court of Appeals and Supreme Court also have not defined it or explained it. So where do we turn to have a working definition or explanation of what unnecessary hardship is? We turn to the authority who trains the North Carolina legislature in Raleigh in municipal and land use law, and that's the UNC School of Government's professors. They actually train the legislatures in Raleigh on land use law. And I would pretty much guarantee you they were involved in the writing of the state statute that includes unnecessary hardship. The most respected and the most active in the field at the UNC School of Government are the fellows that wrote this book, the Quasi-Judicial Handbook, a guide for boards making development regulation decisions, and also wrote the textbook that they use in Raleigh at the UNC School of Government, a survey of experience with zoning ordinances. The fellows that wrote those books are David Owens and Adam Lovelady and Professor Adam Brueggemann, all of them professors with the UNC School of Government. A lawyer preparing a court case and needs to establish a definition for something looks first to the statute. If it's not there, he looks then to judge-made law from the Court of Appeals or the state Supreme Court. And if it's not defined there, he looks to learned authorities such as these professors who teach public officials such as the legislature. They also travel around the state and train the county commissioners and the city council people in North Carolina land use law. The UNC School of Government would say that all zoning is a hardship. It limits property owners' rights to do what they please with their property. But it's allowed, zoning is allowed as a public good. All the states, however, provide for some legal bending of the zoning laws by way of variances. There are properties which could not be used for anything if all the zoning laws were rigidly applied. That would be considered a taking by the government. In North Carolina, a variance applicant has to show a number of things, and the first is that he suffers from unnecessary hardship if the zoning rules were rigidly applied to his property. Excuse me. The school of government would say it's fair for all the property owners in their neighborhood to suffer the same degree of hardship due to the zoning rules, but it would be unfair and excessive for the zoning rules to impact one property or several properties more than the other properties in the neighborhood due to the unique characteristics of the property. That would be excessive. The adjective unnecessary is a poor choice. Think of it as excessive hardship or unfair hardship. The applicant for a variance has got to show the problems with the lot, the problems that are worse than most property owners have to contend with, and the problems that are forcing him to seek a variance. Now, is there anyone else present that considers themselves to have standing in this case, a party in this case? If so, the board needs to find out now and address that. Is there anyone who feels like they have standing to enter this case as a party? Hearing none, we move on. And let me go ahead and swear in everyone that is going to be a witness around here. Come on up if you're a witness, or you may be a witness. All right, so you get everybody's hand all at one time. Very good, very good. This is all of you. Everybody got their left hand on. Left hand on, right hand up. There we go. There we go. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this body in this matter being heard shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God? All say yes.
Yeah.
In this case, as in all of our cases, the zoning and inspections office has prepared a staff report. Have all members of the board received the staff report?
Yes.
All right. And Ms. Leslie, did you get a copy of the staff report?
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Waters, you got it? Okay, all right. Do you have, Ms. Leslie and Ms. Waters, do you have any objection to anything you saw in the staff report? All right, does anyone have any objection to the staff report being brought in and made a part of the record of this case? Any objections? There are no objections from any party. And at this time, we're going to have the town representative, Mr. Brian Johnson, step up and go through the staff report with us. If you would, just go through everything in it, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman, Board. Before I begin, there is some larger prints of an elevation. I enlarged the survey as well. Hopefully that'll help you out a little bit. I know the staff report's a little bit small. And there's also a colored site plan, and I can explain that as we go through the through the staff report.
Let me interrupt you. I should have done something. Mr. Walker at one time says he owned the property at issue here. Does anyone have any questions of him about that? Okay, all right. So, Mr. Walker, you owned the property at one time prior to the Leslies, and I assume you sold it, and
Yes.
you no longer have any connection of any kind with it?
No, no.
Very good, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank all of you. Mr. Johnson, sorry to interrupt you.
Have before us tonight variance case number 2025 20-02. Applicant is Amanda Waters with 444, and Preston Spencer with them is here as well. Location of the property is 172 Clark Street, and the zoning is R15 single family. Ms. Waters, on behalf of the property owners, Robert and Abby Leslie, are requesting a setback variance from Land Use Ordinance Section 16-12.4. The front street setback, the rear street setback is where they're requesting to construct a second story. Again, the property is located at 172 Clark Street, further identified by Watauga County PIN number 2807-88-0940-000. Amanda Waters and Leslie's are requesting a 16.8-foot setback variance. And I've got the survey on the screen too, if we need to look at that closer. But the request is for a 16.8-foot setback, which is on the rear of the house, from the applicable 20-foot setback, and I'll explain the 20-foot setback here in just a moment. But the setback applicable there is along US Highway 221, or also known as Yanalasi Road. The request is for the construction of a second story. Their plans are to provide a pitched roof, second story, on the same footprint as the existing foundation sits on the property now. The ordinance allows the applicant or a property owner to choose when you have two streets. They can choose one of those streets to be a 20-foot setback. One remains a 30-foot setback, and one can choose to be a 20-foot setback.
When the property abuts two streets.
When the property abuts two streets, yes, sir.
A corner, a house on a corner would abut the two streets.
That's correct. That's correct.
Thank you.
So 30-foot applies to Clark Street, and the 20-foot has been applied to Yanalasi Road, US Highway 221. That's the rear of the property. The current structure is considered a non-conforming situation as it currently sits in various, I think, 3 of the actual setbacks. A portion of the existing porch to the west, a portion of the existing carport, which is on the east side, and the north end of the house, of the existing house, is where the non-conforming situation applies and currently encroaches into the setbacks. Again, 30 foot on Clark Street, 20 on Yanalasi, US Highway 221, and the applicable side setbacks are 12 feet from the property line. Currently, the northwest corner encroaches 16.8 feet at the largest encroachment, which is on the northeast corner, and then encroaches 4.7 foot into the 20-foot street setback along US Highway 21, which is on the northwest corner, back part of the property. Again, the proposed second story is planning to be within the existing encroachment of the existing structure at the same footprint. Further clarify on the front, staff has the administrative ability to provide administrative waivers based on 3 different criteria in the ordinance. And one of those is a reduction of a setback based on topography of the lot. While this lot's fairly flat in general, there was a topography difference from Clark Street to, it's measured to the 30-foot setback, which is basically the front door of the house. So staff measured on site, and there was a 4-foot elevation difference in topography there. So we were allowed administratively to grant them a 2-foot reduction on the Clark Street front setback. So that applies a 28-foot street setback along Clark Street.
Let me interrupt you again. That the owner chose for the Clark Street side to have the 30-foot setback.
Correct.
And as the house sits, is it non-conforming for that 30-foot?
This is the 30-foot setback right here. A portion of I'm not sure, I'd have to let the applicant point out if maybe the overhang or the eave is within that, but according to this, it's not. Right there's a 30-foot line. With the administrative waiver, and that's based on section 1612.4.7.2 that allows this to be reduced to 28 feet.
And that's because of a slope?
That's because there's a 4-foot elevation difference between, which is measured at the right of way, right here at the bold line, back 30 feet. There was a 4-foot topography change, and for every 2 feet of topography change, we can allow 1 foot of reduction. So we can apply a 2-foot reduction to that, and that's set at 28 feet there. And if you look at the proposed building footprint, that change is allowing them to provide another porch addition here, but it's in compliance with the setback. Is everybody
Any,
following?
any board member have questions
question.
about that?
Okay, got it.
So we can apply up, and that variance is a 5-foot max. I wouldn't call it a variance. It's an administrative waiver that we can apply.
Okay.
So that helped them, instead of having to ask for a variance here, that allowed them to be in compliance with us applying that part of the ordinance. So 28 foot on Clark Street.
Okay, so the Clark Street side, what they want to build, they're fine. They're in compliance.
Yes,
Are both side setbacks in compliance with the 12 feet?
yes. And if you go to the one sheet that I give you that's colored in blue, the applicants prepared, which I think is a great exhibit there. They prepared what was existing and what's proposed and shaded the differences in the footprints. Sorry, it didn't come out color on this, but you can, and I'll sum it up here.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
So with the variance they're requesting, the only encroachment outside the footprint is the second story. That's not in compliance. This is fine here, and the west side over here is fine too. They're not doing anything with this, and the setback's actually through the middle of that. So the main area of encroachment is here with the second story, which is in the back 20 foot building setback there.
All on the US 221 side?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Makes sense? Questions on that?
Yeah, anybody have any questions about that? I've just gone wild and interrupted.
Yeah, so you can see on the little exhibit you see there, that there is some encroachments that there's not, well, I shouldn't say encroachment, excuse me, additions that's planned here, but that's within the 28 foot setback that staff set. And there's nothing here on either side that's any additional encroachment there.
I'm interrupting you again, but we might as well finish the thought.
Sure.
Can you get an administrative break on more than one side of the house?
Yes.
I drove by the place and it looked like the back on Yanalasi Road was a big old steep bank.
You can, the ordinance does limit, let me explain this right. There's two different sections. We can base one on topography. We can base, a reduction on homes that's within 100 foot of that parcel based on the front of the facades of those homes. In no case can we exceed, with the topography, we cannot exceed 5 feet. We're only allowed to give up to 5 feet. And the building facade is limited to 20 feet. So the 20 foot that's applicable on 221 there, that trumps any of the other allowances that can be given anyway. So it wouldn't apply to that backside. Now, if there was a 30-foot setback there, we probably could apply that to that, but we've chose to set the rear street setback based on the ordinance allowing the two streets. We've set that one at 20 feet, which is the max.
When the owner makes that decision, which side to make the 30 and which side to make the 20?
We allow the applicant to make that decision, because it don't specify in ordinance which one it has to be. So we allow them to make that decision.
At what point in the application process do they make their decision on that? I'm just curious.
In their particular case, after we met with the applicants in 444, we were basically given their options and anything that we can give administratively up to what we're allowed to give, and that's where they're at, and that's why we couldn't give them more on the back one administratively.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on what we just discussed? Okay, go ahead, please, Mr. Johnson.
So what you're seeing here, let me back up. What you're seeing here is a 30-foot street setback. Once the project's, if the variance is approved, if they go forward, we'll have a new survey done reflecting that. And the surveyor will make a note of it on the survey and reference the section, and it gets recorded. So it's with the property there. But that will be done, at some point with the surveyor.
Could you go through all the pages of the staff report so that if any board member has any questions, they could ask them?
This screenshot is the larger survey that you have in hand there, the regional survey. I'm also going to note on this, bless you. This is center line of Highway 221. So there is a 150 foot right of way on Yanalasi Road, which is very, very large right of way. And that's the line. It's not the scale in relation to this, but that's where the 75 foot from the center line is for the right of way. And that was confirmed with DOT. So large right of way on the rear there. This is the colored exhibit you have showing the existing and proposed. So the elevations, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them on the elevations. Existing home here. The second story they're providing here is here. Same footprint as the foundation here. Mr. Leslie confirmed the building height will be 29, a little shy of 30 feet, which meets ordinance requirements of a max of 35 feet. That is measured from the adjacent grade there at the primary entrance, so they're in compliance with the, with the proposed height that you're proposing. This is the existing carport on the east side of the house, remaining as is. And, you can kind of see the roof line there. I can let them speak to that a little bit better if there's any questions with that. There's photos in there if you, have any questions on those.
Can you just kind of breeze through them?
Sure.
If anybody has a question, they'll stop. Now, what,
Photo, this is the rear of the home. 221 sets up here. Kind of based on the survey, DOT's right of way runs probably in this area here, which kicks the setback basically in the middle of the house, as you see on the survey there. Just a steep bank there, that's the rear of the home. Front of the home. And there's another shot, and again, back to the part we took was, it's from the right of way here, back to 30 feet, which is basically the foundation of the house there, which was the 4 foot that we granted. And I'll let the applicants also, they want to include this letter. There's a letter from DOT, Mr. Pruitt, that.
well, let's wait, because
Okay.
that's hearsay. Mr. Pruitt's not here. Mr. Pruitt, are you here? He's not here.
Okay.
We'll kind of address that in a little while.
That's all I have. Any questions on anything?
Ms. Waters, the board's gonna have some questions of Mr. Johnson, we always do, but you go ahead and ask him any questions you have now.
I don't have any questions for Mr. Johnson, so.
Fellow board members, questions for Mr. Johnson?
And did you notify all the adjoining property owners?
Thank you. Thought my eyes was going bad there. We notified 17 property owners within 150 foot of the required notification.
150.
17 property owners within 150 feet.
Did you hear back from any of the 17? Don't tell us what they said, but did you just hear from them?
We did not. We had no calls, correspondence.
So without saying what anyone said, would it be fair to say no one objected to this?
That's correct.
Ms. Waters, the letter from the DOT guy, it is hearsay. He's not here. And it's not sworn to as an affidavit, but it's still need to testify in person. So we can't base our decision on that, but it's duly noted that no one has objected to what they want to do. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I just want to confirm that you hear or read the DOT's position that they do not have an issue with the home going up in the existing footprint.
Well, again, we can't base our decision on hearsay, but I would hesitate to say you're getting what you need because he's testified no one has objected in any shape, form, or fashion. Is that true?
That's correct.
That's what you got. Any more questions of Mr. Johnson? I've got a few.
I'd just also say, it says an in-person meeting, so Ms. Waters might be able to testify to what was discussed during that meeting.
Still hearsay. Do we know when this house was built? Anybody know?
I don't. I'd have to refer back to the applicant.
I believe it was 1940, somewhere around there.
Fair to say around 1940.
Yes, sir.
Have you walked the property? Are you familiar with the property, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
Is back there on Yanalasi on the highway, does the bank get real steep back there?
Yeah.
It looks like almost a wall.
From this point here, yeah, there's, I don't know what the elevation is, but there's quite a bit of elevation change there. I mean, at least 20, probably 20, 30 feet of elevation change.
Yeah, fair to call it a steep incline.
Sure.
Is the existing non-conforming house grandfather?
Yes.
So what the applicant is proposing, it would expand, it would increase nonconformity, but it would be straight up. It would be in height. It wouldn't be in width or depth at all.
That's correct.
Let's talk about the proper notices a little bit more to make sure that we've covered those adequately. You sent notices to the applicant,
Yes.
and you said you noticed 17 property owners who were all within 150 feet
Yes, sir.
of the property, but you heard nothing back,
No.
one way or the other. Did you put the required sign up?
Yes, sir.
So it's fair to say you have properly noticed all private parties and the public as to this hearing and this application.
That's correct, including public notification in the local publications.
Okay. And you said you did become familiar with the property, walked it, been around it.
Yes, sir.
Having become familiar with the property, Mr. Johnson, would you say what the applicant is proposing would or would not impair emergency vehicles such as fire trucks and ambulances? Would it impair those?
It would not. No, sir.
Pursuant to your becoming familiar with the property, would you say what the applicant is proposing would or would not create a fire hazard?
No, sir.
And pursuant to your having become familiar with the property, would you say what the applicant is proposing would or would not block or impede visibility on any street or highway?
No, sir.
And pursuant to your becoming familiar with the property, would you say what the applicant is proposing would or would not be contrary to public health and or safety?
No, sir.
That's all I have. Any board member have any more questions of Mr. Johnson? You do not?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. And after hearing the questions I have of Mr. Johnson, Ms. Waters, do you have any more questions of Mr. Johnson? All right, we're ready for you to come on up.
Obviously, I'm not Amanda Waters. I'm Preston Spencer, representing 444 and ultimately representing the Leslies and their request for this variance. Appreciate the opportunity to do this, and if it would be all right, I'd like to allow the Leslies to introduce themselves, and we are certainly very glad that they have come here to this community, and I've very much enjoyed getting to know them and their family, and I would love for y'all to have the same opportunity.
Robbie Leslie, Robert Leslie. And
I'm Abby Leslie, and I'm gonna say your name.
I'm Sadie, and I'm Robert Leslie, just like the name.
What's your name?
Silas.
I'm Ruby, and we've come to Blind Rock, at least my whole life. Went to NC State, studied architecture. Love the city, love downtown, and we are so excited to hopefully be able to fix some roots in here with our kids. We can make a little more room.
yeah, well said. I can't really add to that. We do love this place and love this property in particular. The stonework, the old bones of it, it's really got a good feel to it. And
And the location too, the pool, the playground, and Bass Lake.
yeah, so really what we're asking for tonight is really just for what you see here. It's just to make a little more room. That's it. And thank you guys for having us.
Anybody have any questions of the Leslies? Are you finished, Mr. Spencer?
I would love to just recap a few things for y'all, if that'd be all right. Yeah.
Sure. We want you and Ms. Waters to make a full presentation.
So, I don't want to rehash through everything that we've already covered. So the unnecessary hardship case that we're making is essentially tied to this 20-foot setback that bisects the home. And that is related to the 75-foot right-of-way from Highway 221, which of course was not there when the house was originally constructed. And not increasing the footprint, non-conforming situation, but rather raising the roof height to allow for additional bedrooms so that they can actually accommodate their family in the home and enjoy what they have invested into here in the community. And so while we understand the comments you've made about the DOT, we did feel it was important to reach out to them because they are party to this, being that they have a right of way abutting the property, and we were pleased with their response.
Can you go back one screen?
Yes, sir.
I'm half blind, so it's taking me a long time.
Sorry about that.
In fact, I'd appreciate it if you'd read the whole thing.
Sure. So just making note of the fact that the 20-foot setback created by the 75-foot right-of-way behind the home from 221 is cutting through the current footprint of the home. And that it was built prior to the widening of that right-of-way. It sits well below the highway, as we've all noted, to the extent you can't even see it sitting on the highway. We've got some pictures that we can reference here if we need to. And then, as I mentioned, the NCDOT has provided written approval, but that was part of our due diligence that we felt was necessary in this process.
How about the other houses in the road there on Clark Street? Have they got the same problem at the rear on US 221?
So by our count, there is, I think, 5 other homes that are in a similar situation on Clark Street. So it's a rather unique situation in that regard. The rest of Clark Street is not experiencing this particular situation. And so that is that's part of what we're looking at as well.
So you feel like the proximity to US 221 is a hardship?
Specifically the 75-foot setback right of way from US 221. The proximity, we don't feel, and the DOT agrees, is not an issue. It's the fact that 75 feet offset plus the 20-foot setback is what's creating the hardship, or what's otherwise not creating any issues for the neighborhood or for the DOT.
What's your title at 444?
I'm the Vice President of Project Management and a Senior Project Manager, as well as a few other hats, but those are my 2 primary titles.
I've jumped in front of the rest of the board. I've got a couple more questions for you. Any board members have any questions for him?
I think I would offer an observation. And if this was a normal lot sitting in the neighborhood and DOT hadn't built that road there in the last 10 years or whatever, is it relevant that the highway wasn't there when this house was built? And
That
then-
highway looks like it's been there a pretty long time. There was no highway there in 1940?
But not the right of way.
Yeah,
I can share, I don't have the supporting document because it's very difficult in this format to see. But the DOT did share with me the original plans for the road, and you can see this house clearly on it as they were widening it. It's just, the format would not, it's very.
The road was there, but it wasn't nearly as wide as it
It was
is.
before the widening of
Okay,
this.
I've got you.
so I'm asking really, if this is a normal lot in a neighborhood and you just want to put another half story on top of it, you really wouldn't have an issue because it would conform to other things, but
As long as the first story
yeah,
was conforming.
yeah, wasn't, yes.
This isn't a question, I guess it's an observation, but I'd be glad to hear any comments you have. Mr. Spencer and Ms. Waters, I'm impressed that the applicant has kept within that footprint and hasn't gotten greedy and wanted to go further out. Do you have any comment to that?
Well, I know that based on our conversations with them about their goals for the property, of course, they want to make space for them to accommodate their family. But as you heard them mention, they also appreciate the historical qualities of the home and want to preserve that as much as possible.
I think we all figured that zoning setbacks were created in the first place to give some distance, to give some air, to give some light in between structures. And if you're gonna try to get a variance for something that's non-conforming, I'd say you're coming with more clean hands, wanting to just build on top of something that's already there and legally non-conforming, rather than trying to go out into the setback. So if you're gonna violate the zoning, I'd say you're probably doing it in the softest and gentlest way you possibly could. Any other questions for me?
I did observe one thing on one of these drawings. You'll have to identify this probably. The new structure will be like 29 feet tall, or 29. So, and I'm curious if that even gets you up to the highway.
That's a good question. I don't know that I can answer that with any
Yeah.
real certainty, but I do believe that there is a decent amount of margin left, even still with what's currently there. As this picture demonstrates, we're raising the roof line just under 8 feet from what it currently is, which is, relative to where I'm standing, probably about where that fire alarm is. So it's relatively minimal.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Ms. Waters, you want to present anything else?
Are we gonna do the rest of the presentation, or do you go?
I think that pretty well sums it up. We had more, but y'all did a really good job of teeing this up. So I think everything that we felt was important to cover has been covered. Just to show again the elevation proposed, again, very much the desire to keep in the aesthetics of Blowing Rock and stay within that. Some might say it's an improvement. So we appreciate the opportunity.
Can you keep that up there for just one sec?
Yes.
And it was your opinion that the building setback here for 221 is worse for this house than the others?
Certainly for the majority of the other houses on Clark Street. There are others that are in a similar situation, but this is unique in the total neighborhood view.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Do you have anything else to present? All right. Go ahead and take a seat, Mr. Spencer. And we're going to write up our findings of fact. We're not going to close the evidentiary hearing yet because we always want to go back and ask another question or two. So we'll leave the evidentiary hearing open. And the board members will remind me to close it before we go to conclusions of law. Would anybody like to write up the findings of fact? Ms. Murphy, I'm going to get you on this one.
Well, I'm gonna start writing this much in the next meeting. So I'm ready.
Well, things like the address you can do before you ever get here. You know what the address is. All
Oh,
right,
I can do that.
findings of fact. The applicant is 444, a general contractor. On behalf of property owners Robert and Abby Leslie. And is that the way the deed reads, Robert and Abby Leslie?
Yes, sir.
The owner of the property in question is Robert and Abby Leslie. The address of the property in question is 172 Clark Street, which has Watauga County PIN 2807-88-0940-000. And it was built around 1940. The applicant wants to do the following, which would violate zoning regulations and which would require a variance. Applicant wants to expand an existing non-conforming structure by constructing a second story over the top of that non-conforming structure. Applicant wants a 16.8-foot setback variance from the applicable 20-foot street setback along US Highway 221, also called Yanawasi Road. The new second story would be built over the existing non-conforming house footprint, utilizing the same foundation. Portions of the existing porch to the west and a portion of the existing carport and the north end of the existing house are considered a non-conforming but grandfathered situation. The northwest corner encroaches 16.8 feet into the required setback, and the northeast corner encroaches 4.7 feet into the required 20-foot street setback along US Highway 221. The proposed second story would be within the existing encroachment of the existing non-conforming structure. The enlargement of the non-conforming structure would be upward, with the structure higher in height but not broader in width or depth. An administrative waiver has been granted by the Planning Department pursuant to Code Section 16-12.4.7.2, such that a reduction of 2 feet was granted to the 30-foot street setback along the Clark Street side of the structure. This makes the new setback along Clark Street 28 feet. The setback on US Highway 221 is 20 feet. The side setbacks are 12 feet. The proposed and sought-after variance would enlarge the existing grandfathered non-conforming structure upward in height, but would not broaden the width or depth of the existing non-conformity. And I've already said that, so I'm going to scratch through that. I already said the non-conformity goes up, but not to the sides.
Mr.
There are
Chairman,
no- I'm sorry.
can I get, maybe just to clarify that,
Sure.
and maybe they need to answer if the eaves were at that footprint, or was that the foundation footprint?
In the front?
So my concern is, did that come from the eave measurement, or did it come from the foundation measurement? And I probably failed to clarify that in the staff report.
Do you know the answer to that?
I
question?
don't, that's
Ms.
why.
Waters, do
we
you
may
know
need
the
to
answer to that
clarify.
question?
Can we, roll the slideshow back just a little bit and let's look at the background?
You mean the front, right? The front porch?
They're going to have eaves on both sides,
Go back to
right?
the survey.
This one?
So my question to them would be, is this footprint the foundation, or is it the eave? Eaves have to meet the required setbacks,
I see.
so that's probably a question for them.
That is the foundation, according to the survey.
So that's my concern is, if that's the foundation, we have an encroachment with the existing eave, and we would need to know what that encroachment of the eave is, and that's what they would be limited to.
Can you pull up the picture of the back of the house? It showed the overhang.
It is. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think the picture in mine might have a little bit more clarity. That was kind of dark.
So in the back.
It's just in the back is the problem.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
So
it's overhanging like a foot or something. It's not very much.
So you're going to need more than 16.8 feet for the eaves.
The eaves, yes, sir.
Do you know the exact dimensions of what the eaves will be after construction?
Preston, we typically use 32 in the site application.
So I think it does vary some depending on the elevation, or depending on which portion of the roof it is. Some are 12, and I think some might be up to 16 or 18 inches. Back.
Do you think 18 inches would cover the eaves?
Yes, sir.
So we could add 1.5 feet.
Yeah, the rules allow you to amend your request, what you're wanting midstream. So do you want to change that 16.8 to, somebody help me here.
16.8 plus 18. Is it
How-
16.8 feet, or is it 16 feet, 8 inches?
16.8 plus
Is-
1.5.
Yes.
18 point.
When you, Mr. Johnson, when you say 16.8, are you saying 16 feet and 8/10 of a foot, or are you 8 inches?
8/10, I think, from a survey standpoint. Right.
So we need to add 18 inches to that.
So add 1.5.
Well, somebody figure out what 16.8 foot plus 12 inches, I'm sorry, 18 inches?
Yeah.
You just gave us that.
18.5 feet.
18.3.
18.3.
All right, does the applicant want to amend their request to 18.3?
Yes, we do.
Any objection from the town to their amending their request? We really ought to take a vote on that. I'll make a motion that we allow the applicant to amend their request to a variance of 18.3 foot. Is there a second? Mr. Sharp seconds. All those in favor of allowing the applicant to amend their requested variance to 18.3 feet, say aye. Aye. All opposed? It's unanimous.
And we're
So,
sure that number's right.
Yes.
It is.
Mr. Schill.
Okay, thanks.
you sure, you're gonna have to live with it?
Yes,
Okay, 18.3,
it'll be factored into the final plan.
18 feet and 3/10.
18.3.
18, so that's.
Okay.
Didn't want a house with no
Sometimes
eaves.
somebody
That wouldn't be
wants
good.
Why is it just 6 inches? What you got?
Mr. Chairman, I'd maybe just for your thoughts on that 18.3 would be the furthest point on the northeast corner. The other corner is 4.7 feet plus 18 inches.
Right.
do we need language to reference the two corners based on those two measurements and not allow, not be perceived that 18.3 feet could go on the northwest corner? That makes sense?
Yes.
I mean, I know you've referenced the same footprint, and I think that may cover it.
Yeah.
But just thoughts.
I think as long as we're saying they're requesting an 18.3 foot variance into the 20-foot setback, I think we cover the whole side.
And I'm just thinking and remain in the same
Yeah, that's the
footprint.
maximum.
Right, they can't go outside the current foundation. They're gonna go straight up.
Yeah.
Let's make it a, when we get to the conclusions of law, a condition that 18 inches of that variance is to accommodate the eaves, and the foundation is to be extended not at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll get to that in the conclusions of law. Okay, let's wrap up the facts. The town of Blowing Rock has provided and given all necessary legal notices of this case and this hearing. There were proper notices of this case and hearing given to all property owners with property abutting the parcel of land which is at issue here, and the proper notice was given to any other persons entitled to receive notice. The applicant did receive a copy of the staff report prior to the hearing. And the witnesses in this hearing were the applicant, Amanda Waters, the zoning enforcement officer, and Mr. Preston Spencer, project manager for 444 vice president and project manager for 444. And the property owners testify. The Leslies. What the applicant is proposing would not impair emergency vehicles such as fire trucks and ambulances. What the applicant is proposing would not create a fire hazard. What the applicant is proposing would not block or impede visibility on any street or highway. What the applicant is proposing would not be contrary to public health and or safety. Unique features of this property are the building setback created by the 75-foot right-of-way of Highway 221, also called Yanawasi Road, bisects the house. Creating difficulties not shared by the overall community. Did I leave anything out? Anybody want to add any facts?
Did we decide that this is on its own, you don't need to refer to the state's letter? I'm asking.
It's hearsay. I mean, obviously they had to get that, but let's follow the rules we're supposed to. It's hearsay.
Fair enough.
Clearly, DOT didn't object. We asked Mr. Johnson, he had no objections from anyone. So, I move that we close the evidentiary hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Murphy, and all in favor of closing the evidentiary findings of fact, say aye. Aye, it's unanimous. Moving to conclusions of law. Based upon the evidence presented and the facts shown above, the Board of Adjustment finds substantial, material, and competent evidence exists to conclude that in this case, unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the regulation. I move that they have met their burden on factor number one, as just stated. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Schiller seconds. All in favor of finding that the applicant has met their burden on the first factor? Say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Based upon the evidence presented and the facts shown above, the Board of Adjustment finds substantial, material, and competent evidence exists to conclude that in this case, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property. I move that we find that the applicant has met their burden on factor number two, and that the hardship results from conditions peculiar to the property. Is there a second? Mr. Starnes seconds my motion to find they've met their burden and have met the requirements of factor two. All in favor of finding that they've met their burden for factor two, say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Factor 3, based upon the evidence presented and the facts shown above, the Board of Adjustment finds substantial, material, competent evidence exists to conclude that in this case, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or property owner. I neglected to ask the Leslies if they were around when this non-conforming old house built around 1940 was sited and built. I think we can assume that they were not, and conclude that they did not, the hardship of the house being situated where it is didn't result from actions taken by the applicant or property owner. I make a motion to find that the applicant has met their burden on that, and no action by the applicant or the property owner led to this problem. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Schill. You are quick tonight. All in favor of finding that the applicant has met their burden for factor number 3 and they had nothing to do with creating the hardship, say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. The last factor 4, based upon the evidence presented and the facts shown above, the Board of Adjustment finds substantial, material, and competent evidence exists to conclude that in this case, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulation, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. And just as an aside, I'll say that substantial justice, that's where if we had evidence of harm coming to some adjoining property owner, that's when the justice question would come in, but it didn't in this case. And I make a motion to find that the applicant has met the burden and that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulation such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Murphy. All in favor of finding that the applicant has met their burden on factor number 4, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. The Board of Adjustment does grant the applicant a variance to take the actions stated in fact number 5 above. With the board making the following condition. The condition is help me with the wording on this, Jerry. You were all over is that the existing non-conforming structure foundation is to get no closer to the setback. How would you word?
That the addition will go directly on top of current non-conforming foundation.
The condition is that the existing non-conforming situation foundation is to also be the foundation for the new construction. And the only the only part of the new construction that extends any further than the foundation will be the eaves. Would be 18 inches for eaves.
Up to 18 inches is what they said they were gonna build.
Okay.
Well, somehow we're saying they're not gonna change the foundation outline,
Right.
which I think you
that
said
was their
in, said in reverse.
I think you got it.
Yeah.
Why don't I go ahead and tack on the,
The simple sentence, that they're not gonna change the outline.
say it again, Jerry. You nailed it.
Well, a period, and they're not gonna change the existing foundation
Will be unchanged.
would be unchanged. Yeah.
Okay. I move that the Board of Adjustment adopts the above listed conclusions of law which grants the applicant the requested variance. So I move that we adopt those conclusions of law, granting the applicant the requested variance. Is there a second? Mr. Schiller, second. All in favor of adopting the conclusions of law as just stated and granting the applicant the requested variance, say aye. Aye. Mr. Walker, you're an aye. It's unanimous. Mr. Ms. Leslie, you got your variance. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I move that we conclude this meeting of the Blowing Rock Board of Adjustment. Is there a second?
Second.
Jerry Starnes seconds. All those in favor of concluding this meeting, say aye. Aye. And that's it. Thank you very much to everyone.
Will you stay on?